Now let's bring in two members of Congress central to the second impeachment of President Trump. Democrat Joaquin Castro, who will be one of the House impeachment managers in the Senate trial. Freshman Republican Peter Meyer, one of 10 Republicans who voted for impeachment. Congressman Castro, let me begin with you. I want to get to impeachment, but first, you just heard John Carl say the president is still considering a self-pardon. If that happens, should the Biden Justice Department investigate and bring a suit against President Trump?
Well, obviously that's going to be a decision that's going to be left up to the Department of Justice under President Biden. I have said over the years that I think it's quite possible that there were crimes committed by President Trump, but I'm going to leave that to the Biden folks.
Let's talk about impeachment. I know it's a fluid situation right now. What do you know about when Speaker Pelosi is going to send the impeachment articles to the Senate so the trial can start?
Well, all of us on the impeachment manager team are ready to go when the trial does start. We're ready to lay out the evidence that the president incited a deadly insurrection that resulted in the loss of lives of 5 Americans. And so there's, of course, conversations going on between Speaker Pelosi and the Senate, but we'll be ready to go when it starts.
And would you prefer it sooner rather than later?
We're preparing as though we're going to go in the next hour. We've been working very hard. We've been gathering all the evidence. And so, of course, all of us are very anxious to get started.
How lengthy a trial should we expect? Would you expect to be calling witnesses in this trial?
Well, most of all, we're going to do whatever it takes to lay out the case. You had a president who for months was talking about a rigged election, who after the election insisted to his supporters that he was cheated, that the election was a stolen one. And of course, these are folks who support him very strongly. And so that aroused people incredibly. It created strong emotions in folks. And so we're going to do whatever we need to do to lay out the evidence to show the American people, and most of all the senators who are voting on this, that Donald Trump, through his words and actions, got these folks riled up on that day, asked them to march down to the Capitol. And when all of this was going on, when there was a riot in the U.S. Capitol, also didn't send relief to quell it.
One of the points the Republicans have made in opposing impeachment, those who did oppose it, they've raised a First Amendment argument, pointed out that in his rally speech, the president also at one point told the crowd to remain peaceful.
Yeah, I think this is quite separate from the First Amendment. This is a president who, knowing that he was in a very combustible, emotionally charged situation, continued to work up his supporters, not once or twice, but repeatedly over and over, telling a big lie about a stolen election, even though, as you know, George, they went to court 60-something times and lost about 61 times in court. And so this is a president who knew what he was doing and watched as that mob took over the U.S. Capitol, and in fact, took over the Senate floor of the United States and was slow to act after that to quell it.
You just heard John Call report that Rudy Giuliani is talking to the president perhaps about testifying in the impeachment trial. Is that something you would welcome?
Well, we're still discussing strategy, obviously, and how we're going to handle the witnesses and so forth. And so, certainly if the president if that's something that he wants to do, then he's probably going to be able to do that because he's part of the trial, because it involves him.
Senator Cotton has said he won't vote to convict because a Senate trial of a former president is unconstitutional in his view. He cited the writings of retired appeals court judge Michael Ludwig, who wrote in the Washington Post, "The very concept of constitutional impeachment presupposes the impeachment, conviction, and the removal of a president who is, at the time of his impeachment, an incumbent in the office from which he is removed." Are you concerned that they may be able to find that this is not constitutional, this trial?
I don't believe so. In fact, one of the other purposes of impeachment in this case is to make sure that President Trump is not able to run for federal office again, that he's not able to seek the presidency. The reason for that is that somebody who incited a riot, an attempted coup of the United States government, should not be president again. So it's not just about making sure that there are consequences to his behavior. Certainly it's that, but even after he's left office, it's also making sure that he can't run for president again.
Of course, you only get to that vote if you find 17 Republican senators who will convict. It doesn't appear that you have those votes right now, although it's a very fluid situation. Are you worried that if the Senate fails to convict a second time, this will be some kind of vindication for President Trump?
You know, for any president, when you're dealing with impeachment, there's a high bar. You need 67 votes. But our plan is to go after every single vote. We want to make sure that every senator is standing up for this country, that every senator is considering the evidence against President Trump and the fact that he incited a deadly insurrection. And so we're optimistic that when we lay out our case, that we'll be able to convince folks that, in fact, President Trump is responsible for inciting this deadly insurrection and that the Senate should convict.
Finally, we've heard from several of your colleagues who believe that there's evidence that some members of Congress, congressional staff, Capitol Police might have been accomplices in some way with the rioters on January 6th. Do you have any evidence of that? And how do you expect to follow up? What should be the consequences if true?
Well, sure. Look, anybody who helped, who actively participated and helped the people who ended up rioting and taking over the Capitol in a mob should be held accountable. And right now, I'm focused, of course, as an impeachment manager on the Senate trial of President Trump, but there will be a separate process to deal with the folks who may have also participated and helped in that riot.
Congressman Castro, thanks very much for your time this morning. Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.